Welcome to the Lunchbox Art Talk for the exhibit Toys. I'd like to introduce three women. Kimberly Long, and she has three pieces in this exhibit. And I'm pointing them out. They're the glass encased, the two terrarium type of things, and a bowl with a little world in it. And then Rani, who made an automaton. And Susan, who also did something interactive that she has on her lap, tic-tac-toe. Kim, yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became an artist.
My name is Kimberly Long. You can call me Kim, though. And I grew up in Pueblo, Colorado. And we were lucky enough to have the Sangre de Cristo Art Center. And I was able to be surrounded by artists either through their work because of field trips and continuously going, or they would come to our schools and they would show us what they were working on, tell us about their process. And then I was able to work at the Children's Museum in high school and be able to promote it. I never really thought of myself becoming an artist. I just kind of promoted the arts. I continued to do this throughout college, but I earned a math degree and a teaching degree at the University of Utah, so I kind of tried a supposed to life, and it worked for a little while. But art always called me back. In my classroom, I always had art with my students. I made math and art come together, which is really easy to do and beautiful. And then I had my son, and the world of imagination came back. Everything came back. Being able to jump into the play world of his vivid and wild imagination has been amazing. And so moving to Oregon, we got surrounded by life. Everything is green, and there are birds, and there are bugs, and there is moss, and everything is just alive. And
Rani, I have the same question for you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you became an artist.
Okay. I grew up with an artist mom who dabbled in all kinds of art. So it was always around me. And as an artist mom, and she recognized if somebody was doing art among the family, she would get the right tools for them and give them what they needed to, aspire to be better artists. And so I was always encouraged to draw and do various kinds of art. I ended up, my job, my supposed to be life, I ended up being a computer programmer for 25 years plus. And I always did art, but I never called myself an artist. It wasn't, it was a really hard thing to say out loud. So nobody in my group of computer programming colleagues knew that I did art. And in 2013, I actually was dabbling with some digital art. I was trying different things. And my daughter came home and she said, you know what, you should put that on Facebook. And I didn't know what Facebook was. It wasn't my thing. I was like, so she put it up. It was my digital art. And she put it up and people responded. And I always like my art to have a message. And so they were responding in a really positive way and sharing things with me. And I was really lucky because in my computer programming career, I had worked there long enough that I knew their system really well, so I got some perks. And one of the perks was working from home. And that was problematic when I had a sketchbook next to me because I was like, computer or play. And so eventually I decided, okay, I need to do my art. And so I quit my computer programming job, which was a really, really difficult thing to do. But I did it, and I had the support of a great husband. And so now, and they all thought I was crazy. And I felt like I was too. In a lot of ways, I had a lot of days, mornings of anxiety where I was like, what am I doing? This is crazy. And, but I did it. And I don't make as much money as I did then, but I have so much more joy because I get to do my thing and it feels very soulful. So now I say I am an artist instead of a computer programmer. So.
Susan, same thing.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. Okay. So hi. So my name is Susan. My background is soils and environmental science. I taught earth science at a university in Kansas for a while. But in getting my degrees, I didn't even go to college until I was like 50-some years old. So I ended up moving from Pennsylvania to Kansas just when I was about done my coursework. But the university that I attended to finish up my credits had a fabulous art department. And I had all these extra credits I just needed to make up. They didn't have to be about science or chemistry or rocks or anything. So I started taking them, and that introduced me to people who were very creative and supportive of any effort. And I mention all that because I think that's what I feel is most important and most treasured about this town and this art center. The competition isn't there, the collaboration is. So there's so much encouragement for trying, just doing. Everybody is an artist. And this place exemplifies that so beautifully. And I think we all have that responsibility to one another to just keep doing. Just keep doing. If Hester asks you, just say yes. Just say yes. Wise words. And she's not even paying me.
Very interesting to see that all three of you basically came out of what they're calling hard sciences. Math, computers, soil science, where you measure.
Yeah. But it does put you in contact with the natural world. And that's the source of inspiration for me, and I'm sure for many other people. When you appreciate that beauty, even in, I did sewage research, so trust me, there's beauty in almost everything. When you can recognize that, it impacts you.
This narrative is really your inspiration.
Yes, yes.
And do you develop your own storylines?
For some of them, I'm careful not to do too much because I would like the keeper of the nook to be able to come up with their own and be able to see their own whimsical wanderers come in and come out as they develop, their imagination. I like bringing the light into the imagination. It just provides a sense of wonder always, and when you find yourself in the middle of the Corvallis Oaks, and it looks kind of scary, and there is no way out, there's no horizon, which I knew and grew up with, and now I can't see a horizon because I'm at the bottom of the trees. It's kind of fun to see something bright in those spaces.
Yeah. So do you see a parallel, or are you trying to make a parallel between the world you're creating and the world that we are part of?
I would like to. If nothing more than to make notice of the little spaces in the vast and the big areas that surround us. I like being able to draw attention to the smaller things. The first rainstorm with the sunbreak here in Oregon, and all of a sudden all the raindrops are hanging from the branches and they're sparkling. I could see little fairies put them there. And it was fun to be able to see that, especially at a time when, I get caught up in the everyday tasks of the world, that it's like, okay, let me just take a minute and see it.
So now to go somewhere totally practical. you have this, I don't want to call it fantasy world because that, well, anyway. But you use materials. So what is your medium? What do you use to make these worlds?
I started out using recyclables and air dry clay because they were accessible, and I have a lot of juice boxes from a 5-year-old. So we put those together and we would build them, but I wanted to cover them, and the air dry clay tended to work the best, and painting them. I love painting. I'm not very good in a 2D scape, but being able to paint a sculpture that I can move around and can move around me, I like being able to work with that. I've moved up to polymer clay, and now I'm an artist in residency here working with ceramics.
All right. Susan, I happen to know that you're specialized in clay. So when did I ask you to do a tour? I probably did.
I think you sent an email. Yeah. Oh no, Trish told me about it. And then I got an email. And so you said toys, and I again thought pickup sticks aren't going to work with clay, and toy clay. But I just trusted. I told myself, just trust. You'll come up with something. And a memory of when my kids were young, at my parents' beach house. We had no TV, we had no phone, we had no nothing. But we had games, and one of the games was a little tic-tac-toe thing made of wood that stored the marbles in it. And I thought that was just like the coolest thing. So that got me to thinking, well, I could do that with clay. How could I store the marbles? And I had these stoppers from my banks, and it just came to me that this would be a fun thing to do because you could leave it out and it would look okay. You could take it someplace. Kids could play with it without worrying about it breaking, really, because it's just going to sit on a table. And intergenerational play could happen. So it just seemed like a really good idea. So the shape is similar to a dish that my mom had. Just a little vegetable dish. I think she called it a bone dish because it was small and every place would have it and you'd put your bones there. Anyway, a little antique dish. I made a couple of different pieces to get the scale correct. I had way too big and then it was too tight, and Cinderella or Goldilocks just right. And I have a lovely little collection of wooden stamps from India, and I like to decorate my work with that. Corrugated board. I thought if I elevated the dish, rather than just having it a fancy shape, I could put a hole in the bottom and store the marbles that you would need for the game in the piece. And then they wouldn't get lost. And it'd be a nice little surprise and whatever. And I put little feet on it so that it wouldn't scratch furniture, even though it's smooth, The stopper is, I also make banks, and they have holes in the bottom or the back. This is just felted material that I've cut and bead together, so it's got an inside and an outside that slips in the hole. And it looks nicer than a cork or a rubber stopper, I think. And also, I don't have to worry so much about the size of the hole being exact, because this just kind of fits any old hole, as long as you're...
So I don't know why I get fascinated with various things that I stumble across, and lately automatons, moving things have been a thing that it somehow, and I can't even tell you where in my journey it clicked, but it was somewhere around when Hester said toys, and I went, I'll apply that. Ideally, I wanted her to be looking at the bird, and she would raise her head, and the arms would go up and the bird would go a little higher. So it's really letting go. But at the top parts, that's actually very, it's not very complicated. But to get a lot of parts to move together, that was the complicated part. Letting go has been kind of a theme that has been carrying through for me for the last couple of months. So I explored that idea further as I'm creating her. And I let go when I created her, because I just got all these things that I thought would play into the piece. And I kind of threw up all over my daughter, artistically threw up all over my daughter's space, just trying to figure out what wanted to be in her, because I really just had a general idea, and it just kind of kept evolving. And as I kept working on it, I kept saying, letting go, let go. It is the letting go of past, of baggage that you might have been carrying around. She's not perfect by any means, because she's gone through this process. And she's not young. She's beautiful, but she's been through a lot, and so she has had to process all of these things she's been carrying with her. And the bird is kind of that. What's the word I want? The parallel to, this is what I'm going to let go. And so she's gone through this process, and she's now ready to release and let go of so she can go on.
So, Rani, your work also has this really big backstory, similar to Kim's. You and Susan said, well, I responded to this exhibit because there was a challenge in it for me. Kim was the first one to sign up, the very first one. I was very optimistic at that point. But what I find interesting is that, strictly speaking, your work is not to play with. Their work is sort of to play with, but yours isn't. So why were you, had no hesitation, and immediately signed up for a show called Toys?
Because I think toys are imaginative. You can take your imagination and go any which way with any toy that you've ever been given. And I've noticed that with my son. He's going to turn 6 at the end of this month. And I can give him one toy that I expect him to play with one way, and all of a sudden he is now taking it to a whole new world that nobody could see coming. And I think it was his imagination that inspired me. We have a garden that I'm able to set up some spots for him to take some nooks and some other ones that we have collected through the years. And he's out there creating this world, and he's not moving them. He maybe has one little piece that he's moving around, but he's telling stories, and he's telling stories to me, and now I'm telling stories back to him, and now we have gotten nothing done that we were supposed to do in the garden.